Welcome to today's special council meeting as Wednesday, November 13th, 2024. It is 3 p.m. We are in the council chambers at 19 Parnell Street. I'd like to call the meeting to order.
Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Greater Madawaska calls to order the November 13th, 2024 special council meeting at 3 p.m.
Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Levesque. All in favor? That is carried. Section 2.1, approval of agenda. Resolution, please.
That the agenda of the special council meeting of November 13th, 2024 be approved as presented.
Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke, second. Councillor Levesque. All in favor? That is so carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? No. None seen. We now move on to section 4.1, Library 2024 budget presentation. Ruth Jones, Chief Librarian and CEO.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you for having the Greater Madawaska Public Library and Learning Center here to present our 2025 budget request. We're pleased to be able to report that we will not have an increase in our funding request for 2025.
It's behind you.
Oh. I'm just going to turn around so I can see too. You can go to the next slide, Renee, if you like. We're very fortunate to be able to have a wonderful group of staff and volunteers that support library programming. Some of the volunteers are in regularly to support the Weekend Reader program that sends out books and materials to families who live across the township, those that use the school. They also come in to read to the kids every week, which is really great. One of our volunteers, Sharon Nichols, I want to recognize because she's been really wonderful in terms of connecting us with people in the community who would like to come in and share their skills with the users at the library. Some of them you can see here on the screen. 3 of them are children's book authors, so we've been lucky to have them come in and tell us about their work. That's been good for the kids to see the process of building books in the library. One of the programs that or one of the benefits, I guess, to making community partners or is that they have specializations that we don't have ourselves in the library. So we've been able to connect with a few community organizations with specializations in Indigenous teaching and local immigration partnerships. A new partner that we made this last year, they've been supporting us with takeaways in the library that are educational in nature. So people can come in and pick up a learning kit and take it home with them. But these partners have been useful in providing resources that we can send out into the communities without having to invest time in preparing these kits for teaching. Some of our partners are there. Some of the highlights this year, it's a lot of staff time put in sort of refining services and online resources, getting our systems, improving our systems. So one of the things that we started doing this year, and it just came out of use, really, we had people coming in who wanted to pick up print services or printed documents without having to hang hang out at the library waiting for them to print. So we've initiated curbside print service. We've been continuing to make improvements to the catalog so that it's easier for people to use. We discovered, I think, this last year that a quarter of our fiction titles weren't showing up in the system. So one of our staff members has been dedicated to chipping away at that problem. We've been trying to synchronize our Overdrive, Libby, and our integrated library system so that we can get a better view of who's using the library and e-resources. And then, we've been working away at organizing and reorganizing the library collections so that people can locate items in the library when they come to visit a little more easily. Another wonderful thing for us this year was a smallish grant for take-home kits, activity kits for seniors in the community who have grandchildren that come to visit. We do have a lot of seniors coming in over the summer looking for things for their grandkids to do when they're hanging out for a weekend or a week. The staff has processed about $6,000 in books this year, and we're thankful to the readers in the community for those resources. And as well, we have 2 staff members who work at other libraries, and those libraries have been very generous in supporting our library with reading materials specifically. And again, we owe a lot of thanks to our volunteers for helping out at the library. Some of our community programs that we've participated in this year were the Canada Day breakfast. We've enjoyed doing that the last few years. It's a busy morning, lots of pancakes, lots of sausages. And we've been happy to participate in as a collection site for the Lions Club and the Calabogie Poppy Project. That was a new project that one of our community members initiated this year, but it's had great response from the community. I've never seen so many crocheted poppies, but the library has been serving as a collection site for those. And then we continue to support the school, and we've been able to purchase some of, support their Scholastic Book Fair, which is helpful to the school as well. Oh, and another item this last year that we'll hope to make better use of in 2025 is a water rangers, a water test kit that the fish and game clubs can use to test water sites or lakes across the township in 2025. And this is just a quick library usage review. I like to include this just so you can see that the library is still being used. We have seen some growth over the last year, which is great to see, but you could expect that with the growth in the township as well. We're still sending bi-weekly materials up the line bi-weekly to Pine Valley and Griffith, and we're still distributing science, technology, engineering, math kits as well. They seem to be very popular here. That's it. So our budget expenses for 2025, we've seen some very modest increase in our operations costs and our facilities costs as well. Our wages costs have come down a little bit this year. We've worked with the township to build out our staffing costs and examined them and re-examined them again this year, and we've chipped away at our numbers, so they've come down by a couple of thousand, which is good, but it means we don't have a lot of cushion, we'll say. So we're happy about those. And in our revenue stream, we've discovered too that we receive annually as participating, because we participate in an interlibrary loan program, that we get a refund annually of about $400. So we've included that in our revenue. And as well, the library does generate a small amount of revenue through print services, book sales, and book bag sales, and anything else we can think of, membership fees. So we've included that as well. So that adds about $1,000 to our revenue stream, which is great. And that means our revenues are sitting at about $19,000 for 2025. And so for our support requests in 2025, you can see our revenues listed there and our expenses. We expect our net cost to be about $154,000. And I think that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, excuse me, thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns from council? And could we get Councillor Levesque back up on the screen just so I can see if he has his hand up? There we are. Okay. Now, any questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Thompson.
Hi. Thank you very much for that presentation. You did a stellar job. Patty MacArthur is usually here as her guide, and I know this isn't the sort of thing you like to do, so Patty's quite sick, but she'll be fine. Anyhow, well done. Thank you. And well done budget, too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Levesque?
Thank you, Ruth. I appreciate your time and effort putting this together. It's really well done, as Councillor Thompson alluded to. Just one question, just the overall budget, it looked to me like it was pretty flat. Is that pretty well what it was last year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, I think, down by about $500.
Right.
But yes.
Well, there was a couple increase and one decrease, so it looked like it was probably flat, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, very close.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns from council? No. I'm for myself, I'd like to thank you very much for putting this together. And one of the things I did notice in there, that new library memberships went up 122. Is that 122 as well?
Yes.
I would really encourage as many people in the township and those that do not live in the township. If you do not live in the township, I believe the cost is $20 a year for a membership. And if you compare that to other areas and libraries, you'll find that that is a huge bargain. And one of the benefits of being part of the library is even if you don't live here, you still have access through an app called Libby to download books. So you physically don't have to actually go to the library, but you need to be a library member. And I find it quite good. They have audiobooks, audio magazines, they have digital books and magazines. And I think, if I remember correctly, last time I looked, there's over 20,000 audiobooks. I personally download the audiobooks because I drive quite a bit to different meetings across the county and the province. And I find it extremely useful to be able to, instead of listening to radio and you're tuning in and out of stations and you get static in some areas or no radio stations, the use of the audiobooks is fabulous. And I would really encourage as many people in our township and those that are outside of our township to take advantage of this. It's an excellent program, and I would really like to see our numbers go up. You figure how many people we have in this township that are not using this resource, and I would really encourage people to become members. It's quite easy. But yes, thank you. And as far as the budget and your presentation, both were done fabulously. So thank you very much. If there are no other questions? No, thank you. And this is an information item today. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Take care, Ruth. And at the beginning of this meeting, I was remiss to point out that Councillor Tripp is not here today. Councillor Tripp is away on business and is in a different time zone, unable to attend and meet with his schedule, so I just wanted to bring that up. We'll now move on to section 5.1, which is our Finance and Administration Department. 5.1 is 2025 budget presentation. And I believe Jen, take it away.
So good afternoon. In today's presentation, we'll be walking through the 2025 draft budget, highlighting the key components and proposed financial allocations for the upcoming year. A hard copy of the draft budget, along with supporting details, has been provided in your budget binders, and I've also sent an electronic version via email for those who prefer a digital format. So, strategic planning. As we present the 2025 budget today, we want to highlight how the budget has been carefully drafted with our long-term strategic goals in mind. Throughout this process, we focused on ensuring that key elements are addressed and that we are building on the progress that we have made toward achieving our objectives. As you will see in the budget presentation going forward, these strategic priorities have been effectively integrated and many key initiatives are already on track to be fulfilled. Some of these our sustainable and responsible growth is at the heart of the strategic plan. So we recognize the importance of growth management, balancing development with preserving our unique identity and natural resources. So you'll see throughout the budget, there are items that modernize the streamline processes for the implementation of the financial online system. We're regulating short-term accommodations with the implementation of a short-term accommodation licensing. We're developing a township brand and marketing strategy, wayfinding signage through Red Grant, while enhancing tourism and attracting people to support our business community. We're improving the health and well-being of services offered to residents to align with community needs. And this is through contributing to a health services reserve and a renovation to the food bank. And with efficient and effective governance by fostering a culture of continuous improvement and accountability, we are responding to and planning for future infrastructure needs by increased contribution to reserves. The township recognizes that taxpayers expect value for their hard-earned dollar, and it is essential that we strike a balance between increasing service levels, maintaining existing services, and planning for the future. Achieving this balance requires a thoughtful approach to ensure that services we provide today remain sustainable for both current and future generations. To meet these demands, staff carefully considered several important factors, including actual expenditures from past to identify trends and areas for improvement, a detailed budget analysis conducting a line-by-line review of the operating budget to ensure informed decisions are made based on trending data, and new projects that require financing and the impact on the levy, review of priorities, distinguishing needs versus wants, essential versus non-essential projects, maintaining and increasing the level of service to residents, and township plans such as integrating long-term strategies such as strategic plan, asset management plan, and development charge study to ensure budget decisions support broader objectives. The 2025 operating capital budget process has been particularly challenging this year, largely due to several financial pressures. One significant factor was the ratification of the new collective agreement for police services, which added an additional $142,000 to the budget. This alone would increase the municipal tax rate by 3.3% before considering any other operating demands. In addition to this, operational pressures have also increased due to new regulations and the need to meet operational requirements. These factors combined created pressures as we work towards balancing priorities while managing cost. As we go on to property assessment, the Ontario government has continued the postponement of a province-wide property assessment update while they review the entire taxation system. There is no indication on when this review will be complete. As a result, property assessments for the 2025 property tax years will continue to be based on a fully phased-in January 1st, 2016 current values. Municipalities are relying on new CVA assessments for a revenue source. However, the last few years have been unable to do so. As property value increases, the resulting assessment is a key component in determining municipal taxes, which is the largest source of revenue for the municipality. Lack of updated CVA values put pressure on the municipal levy rate. So for the 2025 property assessment, the 2025 property assessment for the township is provided in this chart. As you can see, the residential property assessments account for approximately 97% of the township's total assessment, meaning that our tax base is predominantly residential. The current value of the assessment is based on 2016 values, which may not fully reflect current market conditions. When considering a potential tax rate increase, it is important to understand the financial impact. So for example, a 1% increase in the municipal tax rate generates an additional $42,604 in revenue, which help fund the township's operations. The 2025 draft budget today reflects a levy requirement of $4,522,069, which provides additional levy revenue of $301,153 compared to 2024. This is derived from growth in assessment and a 6.14% tax rate increase. The increase in the municipal tax rate will address the township's operational needs and support our growth management and strategic planning initiatives. This tax increase approach allows the township to maintain essential services and infrastructure while preparing for future development and sustainability. Ensuring there is a balance of current financial requirements with long-term growth strategies is important for the community's overall well-being and future sustainability. By investing in both immediate needs and future planning with growth and strategic goals in mind, the township will create a more resilient and thriving environment for its residents. So you're probably wondering what a 6.14% municipal tax rate affects the ratepayers. To consider what a 6.14% municipal tax rate increase affects ratepayers, we have developed this chart to show you a difference in the assessment values in annual or monthly increase. So for example, a house valued at $200,000 would have a municipal tax rate increase of $59.28 annually, or $4.94 a month. And then we've also gone through a $400,000 assessment and a $600,000 assessment. So we're moving on to the residential municipal tax rate comparison. This chart has been included to demonstrate the township's current and proposed residential tax rate compared to our neighboring townships. The residential tax rate is reflective of differing services provided in the municipalities. As indicated previously, a 1% tax rate increase provides the township with $42,604, whereas a 1% tax rate increase in comparators would provide a much higher revenue. As you can see, the 2024 municipal tax rate for Greater Madawaska is still lower than the 2024 municipal tax rate with your comparative municipalities. With the overall budget, we'll start with operating revenues. The township's operating revenues are 82.38% from taxation revenue, 11.53% from grants, 2.54% user fees and charges, and 3.55% other. Other revenue includes mutual aid agreements with neighboring municipalities. Under our operating expenses, you will see here the breakdown of operating expenses by department, illustrated in this chart. Overall, the increases include an increase to contribution to capital reserve, an increase to police services, an increase to fire protection. The public works appears to have increased, however, this is due to the shift of wages to specific activities within. For our capital revenues, the 2025 capital funding is provided on this slide, which includes funding from the Capital Works Reserve, development charges, and levy-funded debentures, OSIF, and gas tax grant funding, for a total of approximately $2.5 million. Broken out into the capital expenditures, 63.15% of the projects are road rehabilitation and 33.28% at fire equipment replacement per the asset management plan. We will review these projects in greater detail further into the presentation. We're going into the meat and bones of the budget now. We'll start off with taxation. You'll see an overall total increase of $301,870. The levy increase includes a 6.14% tax rate increase and a 0.94% growth in assessment. Payment in lieu of taxes was adjusted to reflect this. And property tax PIL expense reflect township-owned properties. And this was reallocated from, it looks like it was in addition to, but it was actually a reallocation from the environment section of our budget. Under corporate services, you'll see our costs have decreased by $107,000. Overall revenues for penalties, interest, bank interest, and other interest have been increased to reflect trending. Our OMPF has increased as per the 2025 allocation. This year, we received $57,400 more. Adjustment to wages and benefits include employment agreements, COLA of 2.5% and progressions along the pay grid. This section has decreased due to a reallocation of admin wages to the Public Works Department. Insurance costs have increased to reflect 2024 actuals plus an estimated 10% increase. Our audit fees have increased as per our final audit extension agreement. And we've increased bank charges, debit, credit cards to reflect trending. We're finding more people are paying online. And there's some just minor adjustments throughout. Under protective services, you'll see that our budget has increased $193,636. There was a slight change to revenue for the Admiston Bromley Mutual Aid Agreement. Wages and benefits include employment agreement adjustments, COLA of 2.5%, and progressions along the pay grid. There's an increase for training and staff development to reflect the hazmat operations mandatory training to be completed by 2026. There was an increase to replace fire prevention equipment. There was an increase to cover the cost of wildfire boots and a boot allowance for volunteer firefighters. And there was an adjustment to the agreements for services to reflect MNR wildlife agreement. And there was an addition of budget for maintenance of fire trailers and fire rescue boat. However, I would say a big part of this change is the police under this section is policing. So increase to OPP billing as the result of the new ratified collective agreement. And there's an addition of a police services board. So the Community Safety and Polices Act of April 1st, 2024 requires municipalities to form a police services board. The township has added a new budget line, police services board, to reflect the estimated share costs of this service. The board is to act as a liaison between municipalities and policing services. The township share equal contribution to this board and is estimated to be $16,377. Under Public Works, we have an increase, to overall increase of $84,515. Again, these are wages and benefits. Under our Public Works, we have a transfer to capital roads projects, and this is just basically an internal cost to capital projects, basically all the internal work that we do, we transfer to our capital cost. We have an increase to culverts for operating maintenance, and there's an increase to loose top maintenance, granular due to rising costs and the need to maintain gravel roads, as well as the crushing of the stone currently owned by the township. Under environmental services, you'll see there's a small decrease of $1,894. So there was additional revenue for the new circular materials agreement. But however, there was a decrease in revenue for the Ontario Stewardship Fund, which is retiring this June, in June of 2025. A slight adjustment has been made to the Black Donald transfer site tipping fees and a decrease to Environment Office PIL, which is the reallocation of the property taxes that we saw on that first page under start taxation. There's adjustments to wages and benefits, a decrease to the Griffith transfer site engineering fees to remove that one-time Ministry of Environment expense that we added to the 2024 budget. So we brought that back down again this year. And then there was an increase to the Mount St. Pat contracted services grinding to reflect an operational expense for 2 years of construction waste grinding that needs to happen. Under facilities, you'll see an increase of $46,115. All the rent revenues increased slightly based on individual agreements. Barnett Cottage rental has been increased due to trending. We're seeing great use of this rental. The wages and benefits and progressions along the pay grid. The insurance is being increased for the 2024 actuals plus an estimated 10%. Boot allowance increased to reflect the actual allocations. There's fuel, lubricant, and oil increase to reflect trending and consideration of the new RIF vehicle. And the facility trails has been reallocated to facilities and grounds from recreation. There's no increase, it's just a reallocation. And minor adjustments throughout the building due to efficiencies. I want to also point out here, I noticed in my slide, there's missing the Francis Street building. There was an increase for the renovation to the food bank. Under community service, there's a slight increase of $4,100 approximately. So the township strategic goal, as part of the strategic plan, is to increase accessible recreational and leisure programming offered throughout the township. As a result, the summer camp student wage and benefits line was created to reflect summer programming costs. Another objective of the strategic plan was to improve the health and well-being offered to residents to align with the community needs. As a result of this, staff have allocated the expired recruitment agreement to a physician recruitment reserve. There's been general housekeeping, such as the reallocation of community beautification account to miscellaneous and renaming community development initiatives. Under planning and development, a highlight of the strategic plan was to regulate short-term accommodations. As a result, the township will be implementing the short-term accommodation bylaw effective January 1st, 2025. Therefore, you will see revenues and expenses related to this within this section of the budget. The building permits have increased to reflect trending and an uprise in building permits issued. And then there's some minor adjustments throughout. Our non-reoccurring section is expenses that are one-time projects that are not capitalized. So under this section, we have the finance system, the implementation of the iCity online portal, and the wayfinding signage. So our reserve contribution. Our reserve contribution has increased to $137,786. The 2022 asset management plan identified the annual gap of $1.5 million. Based on our 20-year recommended timeframe for eliminating the annual infrastructure deficit, the AMP recommended a 1.6% tax revenue increase to fund the township's asset management program. Contribution to reserve for capital works has been increased to reflect this need. This contribution value this year is $67,550. However, an additional contribution of $70,236 has been allocated to the capital works reserve in 2025, demonstrating our commitment to meet capital reserve requirements through debt retirement payments. We will discuss this further when we get to the cost of borrowing. A contribution to operating from the DC reserve to the operating for the debenture principal and interest payments on the debenture for Madawaska Road is completed in 2024. So cost of borrowing. The cost of borrowing increases due to new debentures issued for the 2024 capital projects. There is a debenture that is maturing in 2025. However, a new debenture of $508,556 for capital projects that was included in the 2024 budget will commence. As a result, this debenture related 100% to development charges. The development charge reserve will fund the principal and interest payments of this debenture, which is $72,921. In 2024, one debenture matured. For 2025, staff recommend contributing the retired principal and interest payments to the capital reserve. By contributing the retired principal and payments to capital reserves, we are ensuring those funds can be utilized effectively for upcoming capital projects that rely on levy funding. This approach will help maintain our financial stability and support ongoing infrastructure and community needs. We have provided the recommended capital items for the 2025 capital budget. There are a couple. These include Madawaska Road, Church Street, Bluff Point, survey and prepping for Kennedy Road, Highland Creek Road, and under vehicles and equipment, Karcher pressure washer, and a heavy equipment scanner for the roads department. So we're going to move on to our capital project highlights. So under our capital project, our biggest capital highlight project would be Madawaska Road. There is a significant area that will be covered. So the work involves Madawaska Road LCB to hot mix asphalt. The work involves ditching, new culverts, guide rail, pulverizing old surface treatment, adding gravel, and upgrading from LCB to LH4, including the granular seal of guide rail and sharp curves. The total length of this project is 3.5 kilometers. While we are doing Madawaska Road, there's a portion of it that's shared with North Frontenac. This improvement will be LCB to hot mix asphalt. The work involves ditching, new culverts, guide rail, pulverizing old surface treatment, adding gravel, and upgrading from LCB to LH4, or LCB to hot mix asphalt, including the granular seal of guide rail and sharp curves. The total length of this project is 3.3 kilometers. Another capital highlight would be our Church Street LCB. This work involves ditching, new culverts, pulverizing old surface treatment, adding gravel, and upgrading the current LCB, and the total length of this project is 1.1 kilometers. And you'll see it on the map. And Bluff Point, the work involves overlaying old LCB with new LCB, and the total length of this project is 1 kilometer. To continue our capital projects with environmental, we have some garbage compactor bins, a new utility trailer, and continued work with the well repair at the Black Donald site, and a paved parking lot for the Calabogie Community Hall. Under fire, we have the replacement of the tanker with the new pumper tanker, and a replacement of a half-ton truck with a 3/4 ton. As we move on to debentures, with the proposed budget, we will have 5 debentures as provided in this table. As illustrated, the interest rates have nearly doubled in the last few years, increasing the cost of borrowing. The loans have been incurred to bring roads, vehicles, and equipment up to date, which aligned with our asset management plan. As mentioned previously, 1 debenture will reach maturity in Q3 of 2025, and the 2025 capital budget requires a debenture to fund the capital projects. This debenture principal and interest will be 80% funded by DC reserve and 20% funded by levy. As the 2024 debenture that we incurred will be 100% funded by DC reserve, and the 2025 debenture funded 80% by DC reserve, the contributions to cover the DC principal and interest for future year of 2026 will be $212,558. Staff recommend proceeding with a partially DC funded debenture to fund Madawaska Road for 2025 and the pumper tanker. The pumper tanker has already been approved by council in 2024, making this expense committed. Alternatively, delaying the other capital road projects could be considered. However, it is not recommended for certain projects due to the deterioration of the assets. For development charges, so the development charge reserve fund is currently in a deficit due to significant growth-related projects that need to be completed before the collection of development charges to fund them. Based on projected estimates, staff anticipate that this reserve will recover from its deficit and will be able to fund the proposed principal and debt payments going forward. Up to 2022, the development charge was significantly undervalued, reducing the township's ability to fund growth-related projects. In 2022, council approved a higher development charge. The charge was approved at 90% and phased in over 4 years, fully phased to 90% by 2025. Staff will be working with consultants on a new development charge review in 2026. And finally, our reserve and reserve fund schedules. The reserve schedule provides a summary of the reserve balances. The 2025 balance includes the contribution to reserve from operating and the reduction for reserve funded capital projects. We have included an estimate for the 2024 surplus under other and unspecified at this time. So as you will see with the presentation being the budget presented today, we cover all aspects of operating and strategic planning objectives. And I'll open the floor if you have any questions. Oh, sorry, our next steps, my apologies, is once council will review their detailed binders or information packages, submit any questions to the treasurer, and there'll be a regular council meeting for staff. There'll be a regular council meeting scheduled for December 5th for deliberations, and we'll have any additional council meetings if required. And we're hoping to adopt the 2025 budget by December 7th.
Thank you, Jen. I will now open any questions, comments, concerns, discussion items from council, understanding that this is an information package for us today that we will be taking away to review. Any questions from council? Councillor Popke.
I just want to say thanks for making this organized and easy to follow. It's going to make it easy to review and go over it. So thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns from council? Councillor Levesque.
Thank you, Jen. That was really well done as usual. Very comprehensive. And I look forward to going through the details. Just one question. I may have asked it before. The debenture interest rates, do they fluctuate annually?
So we receive the interest rates when we lock in the term of our mortgage, our debenture. So the 2024 one is still set at our estimate of 4.71 if you're looking at our debt schedule, because we have not fully closed the 2024 debenture of 508, and then the estimate is that it will be somewhat interest rates are going down, so my 4.71 is probably a little bit higher than anticipated, but I'd rather have a little bit of a room for if in case they do go back up before I close the debenture.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? No, I'd just like to say thank you once again for this presentation. I will tell you, last year after we had this presentation that you put together, I had the binder up with me at county one day, and the way you had it last year, which is you did this year, that you show all the changes in it, it's easy to go through, easy to find. We were the envy of other municipalities greatly by the way that you put things together. They looked at our budget and compared them to how they get them. Maybe some are following your lead now, but once again, it's extremely easy the way that you've put any changes and the line items that the changes are there. It's extremely well done, and it shows your professionalism. So thank you very much. If there are no, Councillor Thompson.
On that note, I'd like to add that it's also wonderful how the township, everything they do, they start with, this is our direction from council, this is why we're doing it this way, this is how we're achieving it. Same with bylaws when they come through. So that's really making a difference as well. Thanks.
Thank you. If there are no other questions at this time, we will move on to 5.2, new township branding. Resolution, please.
That the Township of Greater Madawaska Council approve the new logo and brand guidelines.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke, second by Councillor Levesque. I believe, I think Jenna's leading us on this one. Jenna, if you could take it away, please. Thank you.
So a bit of background on this, as you're all familiar with. In 2023, the township was successful in obtaining RED funds through a grant application to embark on a joint marketing strategy and implementation project with Whitewater Region. In February of 2024, the township submitted an application for RED grant funding, with the goal being to use the funding to rectify one of the most prevalent issues noted in our marketing strategy, the lack of adequate wayfinding signage throughout the township. In March of 2024, Council approved the township's marketing strategy and launched a rebranding project with Cinnamon Toast to develop a new logo and branding guideline. This project, in conjunction with the wayfinding signage project funded through the RED grant, embraces the new marketing strategy. Important characteristics of the township, as highlighted in the marketing implementation plan, are that it is a vibrant township with a rich heritage, an abundance of outdoor adventures, a welcoming nature, and holds a genuine pride for the area. In September 2024, staff presented Council with Greater Madawaska's rebranding story. The rebranding story highlighted the new logo's features, which aligned with the marketing strategy public consultation input. Following the unveiling of the logo option, Council suggested revisions to the logo prior to providing final approval, which were conveyed to the consulting company. Cinnamon Toast has since provided the revised logo design as well as the accompanying branding package. The township's community development coordinator has begun the process of contacting signage companies for generic quotes for these signs, and once the logo has been approved, we will move forward with more comprehensive pricing. So I'm going to share with everybody the branding that came through from the consultation company, which has incorporated the recommended changes to our logo. So this is the new brand guideline. Essentially, when you go through a branding project such as this, they provide you with templates going forward as to how to incorporate the brand so it stays cohesive across all township communications. We have gone through this before, so right now I'm going to jump to the new logo so that you guys can have a look at the revisions in here, and then we can kind of revisit some of the steps that were taken to get to it. In our last presentation, one of the things noted was that the G needed to be a little bit more defined so it doesn't resemble any other letters in the alphabet. Right now, what we have done is we have asked the consultation company to adjust the mountains to provide a little bit more shape to the G to try to stray away from the C shape in here. So when you're looking at this logo, this was the final product as per the recommendations from council and our consultation company's opinion. And this was the final product here. So we've gone over kind of what the different symbols are within the logo, but right now we want to show you guys some of the different applications that this can be used on because it really drives the shape home. You can use it in a bunch of different applications. One of the ones that really, really stood out to us was the flags in here. It's a little bit delayed. So this here kind of takes you through the palette and what it represents throughout the township. The different elements of the township, whether it be the trees, the forests, the sunsets, and this is where we kind of got the color palette that is incorporated into this. And here it kind of walks you through the gradient, and this is the whole idea behind the colored version of the logo, is to walk you through the different seasons in here. So you can use it for winter cooler or for autumn warmer in here, or you have the option of the gradient with all the colors as well. And the one thing that we really were excited about is some of the applications that can be done with this. There's a bit of a lag. These are some of the mock-ups that they have provided us with. So one of the things that we would really like to see is more applications throughout the township using stuff like this. Town of Renfrew and other townships have different flags to kind of highlight their main streets. And we really felt that it worked well, regardless of the colors and all the different applications. So at this point, I'm going to go back to the new logo design and open it up for discussion. Eventually.
Pardon? Yeah, Councillor Levesque, can you hear me?
Yes.
Do you have your copy open on your desktop?
I do.
Okay, so we don't need to put it up on the screen. That way we can keep you on in camera so we see if you have any questions there.
Sure.
Okay, perfect. Perfect, thank you. All right, I will now open up the floor to questions from council. Questions, concerns, discussion items? Councillor Thompson.
Will there be rules about when to use the spring logo? Like when we send it out to people for use, will we have to send them a whole style guide to go with it? Or can you say, how will we handle that? Thanks.
I think when it comes to the different logo applications, it's kind of up to the use that it's intended for in there. And I would like to think that as a township, with us being kind of what the brand represents, we would be able to guide people on the different applications for it. So depending on its use, we might have a preference for what color scheme is used for it. But there would be guidelines. There are things, even as far as type of font, that you're allowed to use that is a part of the brand package. So that will be something that we would send out kind of in like a cohesive package to people if they were to ask for any of the applications.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Levesque.
Thank you, Janet. I think that was really well done, and I think a big improvement over the first iteration, and I think it'll be go well with everything we do. The only caution I would say is, and we see it in the flags. I like those flags, by the way. I really like. Pakenham has their own version, and all townships and towns have that, and I think they're great. The one thing I've observed is just with the GM just on its standalone without Greater Madawaska, the words, it can lead to confusion in some cases. Like I've seen where there's other branding things developed. It could be an acronym just like this or something else. And until it's actually recognized as part of the brand, a lot of people just don't understand it. So it's more of a caution, and I know you guys will figure that out. But I think it's really well done. And I think overall it's going to be a great package on everything we do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So this has actually been a discussion that we've had within the township when we're looking at doing merchandise and the official unveiling of this. Until this is a recognized brand, I think we will stick with having the verbiage on it. So it will say Township of Greater Madawaska when it goes out on merchandise, and even if we were to put it on vehicles or anything of the sort. It takes a couple of years for a brand to become recognizable. So I think in the interim, until people know it as Greater Madawaska, we would include the wording with it.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Popke? No?
I just want to say it's well done. It's more distinctive as a G, and I think people will be on the right path, won't confuse it. So, good job.
Thank you. Anything else? No, I just want to thank you for this. The first iteration that we had some concerns, and you've taken it to heart and you've addressed them, and I greatly appreciate that. I will say that while I was at a meeting earlier today in Pembroke, on a break, I had opened this up to look at it, and I had some of the staff from the county of Renfrew behind me, and they overwhelmed with it. They loved it. They said how different it was, that we would stand out from other municipalities, that they just think it's very progressive, but still tying in with nature and the old, and what we are as the rural area. So I think we've incorporated that we are a growing community. We are modernizing in some respect, but we're still appreciating our heritage and our rural content. So I think it's great. The color scheme I like as well, going through the seasons. And in regards to Councillor Levesque, I agree with him. That's going to take a while for people to understand it, and you've explained that as well. You look at times of major branding. When Nike first brought out their Swish, it was a check mark, and now it's Nike, Amazon, same with them, and all the branding. People now, it becomes recognized over time, and I think this would too. The one thing I didn't see here, I didn't see the bucket hat I wanted to see. Well, working on the bucket hats. Okay, thank you. One of the other things I just like to bring up, it was mentioned in our budget, and it was also mentioned in your presentation about the RED grant. Just for people watching and listening, that is the Rural Economic Development Grant that comes from the province of Ontario. So just in case anybody wasn't clear that's watching this, or just wanted to explain what that was to them and how important that grant is to us, because you can see it's in many applications. So thank you. One of the other things Councillor Thompson touched upon was people using the brand. People using the brand will only be authorized by us to use it, and will they have to sign a waiver for the usage, or is that just something we're looking at going down the road possibly? Because we don't want to put it out there and then everybody can use it. I guess we need some sign off in regards to copyright or something, or?
So we are working through the process of trademarking this. So Renee and I have started the legal process with this particular logo, so it will be registered to the Township of Greater Madawaska. As far as people using the logo, typically it's only organizations like the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association and stuff like that that will reach out for use of it on things. If it was to be put on merchandise or anything of the sort, that would be the kind of thing that we would have to regulate because the brand package is very specific in there. So anyone asking for it would be given the requirements for its use, and we would have to, I don't necessarily know, sign off on a contract, but we would have to give authorization for it to be used in different applications for sure.
Thank you. Councillor Popke.
Do we have an official launch date for this thing?
Is that permission to throw a party so we can do an official launch for this?
I think we'd have to vote on it first to approve it.
Yes, once it's approved, I would like to do something really special for this. I think it's a huge step forward for Greater Madawaska. It's something that Raina and I have talked about. McNabb Braeside, when they launched their new logo, they did a fun event for it and different things like that, promotional materials, cookies and stuff like that. I think it would be a really fun thing for us to look at when we do the official unveiling. We haven't yet determined a date, but I don't think we're eager to hold off too much longer.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
I just want to reiterate too, the reason we're doing this is part of the modernization, but the old, for anyone that's listening at home, the old logo was awkward. To make it small, to fit in a Google Maps app or something, it would have to be minuscule, so we really didn't have anything to work with that. So just to justify all this, this whole thing. Anyhow, thank you.
Thank you.
Just one
Councillor Levesque. Yep.
One last thing, sorry about that, Mayor Weir. Jenna, we may have asked about it before, and forgive me if we did. The community signs or the village signs that we have now, like the Calabogie or the Madawaska or whatever they may be. I know the initial thing is about wayfinding. Do you guys have anything in your plans for the future to look at those signs for the larger communities?
So this has been an open discussion as well with this RED grant. So basically what we're doing is we're kind of starting at the biggest and working our way backwards to determine exactly how we can maximize this funding in here. Ideally, we would like wayfinding signage for as much as possible. Right now with this initial grant, it's to highlight hiking trails, natural amenities, municipal buildings, and stuff like that, with a large one coming in to Calabogie right here that will direct you to some of the other villages and locations within Greater Madawaska. Depending on where we fall with the budget, we would like to optimize it as much as we can. So that is something that we are looking into. It kind of just depends on how much we're able to get with this initial RED grant funding.
And in addition to that, we would be, we'll go as far as we can with the RED funding, and then we would be coming to council for funding to replace those signage. So yes, the logo would become the signage and we would need to replace those.
Awesome, great, thank you.
Thank you very much. If there are no other questions, comments, concerns, or discussion items, the resolution was to approve the new logo and brand guidelines. All in favor? That is carried. You have your logo, and how does it feel to go from the beginning to full? Very good. You did an absolutely amazing job, and I thank you for that. We will now move on to section 6.1, bylaw approval. Resolution, please.
Be it resolved that the following bylaw, 60-2024, be deemed read a first, second, and final time and passed by council at the special council meeting held November 13th, 2024.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Popke. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We will now move to Motion to adjourn. Resolution, please.
So the special council meeting of November 13th, 2024 be adjourned at 4 p.m.
Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson. Second by Councillor Levesque. All in favor to adjourn? That is carried. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everyone.